Welcome to the In the Core Show. I'm your host, Mr. B. Today we have a very exciting show for you. We are discussing last night's State of the Union speech by President Donald J. Trump. It was the longest speech on record. I think he went close to 2 hours. I want to say an hour, 48 minutes, something in that ballpark. But there were some highlights in the speech. Obviously, we can't go through the whole thing, although I did live stream it last night. So if you guys did want to watch the whole thing, you can feel free to just like and subscribe to the channel and just go through our live videos. But I did want to get some highlights from the speech just to kind of get you up to speed with it. It's been the talk of the town ever since. I think he did some things that pin the Democrats in a corner in some areas, and we'll go ahead and go through just the highlight reel and then we'll discuss it accordingly.
Our nation is back, bigger, better, richer, and stronger than ever before. Incomes are rising fast. The roaring economy is roaring like never before, and our enemies are scared. Our military and police are stacked, and America is respected again, perhaps like never before. In the past 9 months, 0 illegal aliens have been admitted to the United States. But we will always allow people to come in legally, people that will love our country and will work hard to maintain our country. As I say tonight, members of Congress, the state of our union is strong. You're going to win again. You're going to win big. You're going to win bigger than ever. And to prove that point, here with us tonight is a group of winners who just made the entire nation proud. The men's gold medal Olympic hockey team. Come on in. They beat a fantastic Canadian team in overtime, as everybody saw, as did the American women who will soon be coming to the White House. That I will soon be presenting Connor with our highest civilian honor, which we will be given and which has been given to many athletes over the years. But when I say many, not too many, like 12, it's called the highest civilian honor in our country, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. And despite the disappointing ruling, these powerful, country-saving, it's saving our country, the kind of money we're taking in, peace-protecting. Many of the wars I settled was because of the threat of tariffs. I wouldn't have been able to settle them without. Will remain in place under fully approved and tested alternative legal statutes. And they have been tested for a long time. They're a little more complex, but they're actually probably better, leading to a solution that will be even stronger than before. Congressional action will not be necessary. It's already time-tested and approved. And as time goes by, I believe the tariffs paid for by foreign countries will, like in the past, substantially replace the modern-day system of income tax, taking a great financial burden off the people that I love. Now, the same people in this chamber who voted for those disasters suddenly used the word affordability, a word, they just used it. Somebody gave it to them, knowing full well that they caused and created the increased prices that all of our citizens had to endure. You caused that problem. You caused that problem. They knew their statements were a lie. They knew it. They knew their statements were a dirty, rotten lie. Their policies created the high prices. Our policies are rapidly ending them. We are doing really well. Those prices are plummeting downward. So in my first year of the second term, should be my third term, but strange things happen. I took prescription drugs, a very big part of healthcare, from the highest price in the entire world to the lowest. There's been no more stunning example than Minnesota, where members of the Somali community have pillaged an estimated $19 billion from the American taxpayer. Oh, we have all the information. And in actuality, the number is much higher than that. And California, Massachusetts, Maine, and many other states are even worse. This is the kind of corruption that shreds the fabric of a nation, and we are working on it like you wouldn't believe. So tonight, although started 4 months ago, I am officially announcing the war on fraud to be led by our great Vice President, J.D. Vance. As we ensure that all Americans can profit from a rising stock market, let's also ensure that members of Congress cannot corruptly profit from using insider information. Of you, sir. That is why I'm also asking you to end deadly sanctuary cities that protect the criminals and enact serious penalties for public officials who block the removal of criminal aliens. In many cases, drug lords, murderers all over our country, they're blocking the removal of these people out of our country, and you should be ashamed of yourself. In Charlie's memory, we must all come together to reaffirm that America is one nation under God, and we must totally reject political violence of any kind. My preference is to solve this problem through diplomacy. But one thing is certain, I will never allow the world's #1 sponsor of terror, which they are by far, to have a nuclear weapon. Can't let that happen. The golden age of America is upon us. The revolution that began in 1776 has not ended. It still continues because the flame of liberty and independence still burns in the heart of every American patriot. And our future will be bigger, better, brighter, bolder, and more glorious than ever before. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.
So there you have it. That was Donald Trump. Some highlights from last night. A couple points to raise. Trump did score some political points, I believe, in the way that he created a contrast to the American people between his party and the Democratic Party. What Trump, I thought, did effectively is he presented people that were victims of crime, that he connected those crimes to illegal aliens or illegal immigrants who came into the country. Then he said, if you are an elected official who intends to stand with the American people, stand up. The implication is, if you're an elected American official who don't intend to stand with the American people, but to stand with the illegal immigrants, sit down. And unfortunately, the Democrats walked right into that. They sat down. Not only did they not show any sort of sympathy for the people who did lose, their children due to heinous crimes done by, criminals that migrated into the country from another land. But they didn't show any sort of concern or empathy for the grieving mother who was crying. So optically, that looks bad. That looks like it's a way to create the contrast. The people on the other side of the aisle are not with us because they don't even feel the same pains we feel. They don't fight our fight with a sense of representing us, meaning they're not on our side, on this side of the argument. And Trump has said in the middle of the speech, you created the problems that I'm now trying to fix. You're the ones that mismanaged the economy, and inflation went high, and now things are more expensive for people, and now I have to fix it. You're the ones that let the border get out of control, that stopped the border wall that he was putting up. You're the ones that invited people into the country, and now there's 20 million plus migrants, various people that's come into the country that can't be, that is essentially stretching the system, that can't really be located. And I have to come fix it. You caused the problem. And now when there's a grieving mother that's crying, you don't even show any sympathy. You don't take any responsibility. And then when he asks, if you intend to stand with the American people, stand in solidarity, saying that you are committing to always put the American people first and to represent them first before any other interest you may have. Trump did a great job at drawing that contrast. Anybody that was sitting down when he said to stand up in solidarity with the American people, it's a clear sign. If you're a voter, all they have to do is run a reel of how those officials don't intend to stand up for the American people, let alone with the American people in fighting these things. He painted in the picture that said it's him. It's Trump cleaning up their mess. It's Trump trying to get out the people they let in. It's Trump trying to bring back the markets, to bring down inflation. It's Trump trying to fix the wars that they allowed to happen, right? It's like, I don't know a more clearer contrast. Now, stylistically, in terms of how Trump does certain things, he may not necessarily rub everybody the right way. He's not everyone's cup of tea, and I accept that and I concede to that. But at the same time, he is effective in that he does get results. I mean, the guy has really painted it out to the American people, in my view, which is why I think his approval ratings are relatively high, that he is for them. He's negotiating on behalf of the country. He's recruiting people to work in the country. He at least the appearance is, he's renegotiating trade so that the American manufacturer can have an advantage, and for companies to come in and to hire American. Now the Supreme Court struck that down, but he's at least showing the people, look, I stepped out here. I tried to do it, right? And it only took the court to attempt to stop me from doing what I believe is the right thing to do for the American people. I think from a standpoint of optics, he gets those points. He gets the points. Secondly, there's a part about the Democratic Party, I think, that at times is a bit too theatrical. And I don't mean theatrical in the sense to say that they shouldn't be taken serious. They're very, effective, united party when they're opposing Donald Trump, for sure. But it's just, the impression that I got was that everything was about making a scene. It's like you can, and this is just a style point. This is a style. It's a style point is what I would say. And I'll use a contrast. Bill Clinton, I'm a big fan of. Not particularly for his policies or anything like that, but as a politician, that guy is polished. He can disagree with you and still be liked by the people that disagree with him. There's still some level of respect. He will still show some decorum in terms of how he deals with people. And you tend to just kind of overlook the flaws. You may not even like his policy, but you're like, the guy is he's a decent guy. You know what I mean? Like, there's a general respect. I mean, I think Donald even said something positive about Bill Clinton. And Bill Clinton's wife is his biggest nemesis. But he said something positive about him. That goes to say that how you treat people and how you conduct yourself goes a long way. So in disagreement, that is the best time to demonstrate your people skills, especially when you're a politician, being able to disagree amicably, being able to, roll with the punches. I think Obama does relatively good with this. He always looks unfazed in a way. Like, he's never too unnerved. And I think during the speech last night, you're panning to women who's shouting and screaming and interrupting the president of the United States, and the whole thing is being streamed to the world. And the first thought I got was, this looks disorderly. This looked like these women don't respect the commander-in-chief. And it kind of leaves me with a negative impression. I don't know if other people feel like that. Now, I understand that Trump is not their cup of tea, but I'll give you a contrast. Elizabeth Warren is not a big Trump guy. He called her Pocahontas for a minute. They went back and forth for a while. But recently, Trump has made attempts to reach out. He called her and got her input on some things. And I think she was shocked, and she gave him his kudos for that. Last night, I didn't think she did anything out of the ordinary. Every time the camera panned to her, even though there was things Trump said that she didn't agree with, she wasn't shouting and screaming and making a scene. She was just quiet. She nodded. She looked at him almost like, poor soul. That's the kind of look she was giving him, because they're ideologically different. But she was still a lady about it in terms of how she carried herself. I thought she had a lot of decorum. In contrast, you pan over to the Ilma Ohan and the other lady, Tlaib, whatever, who was sitting next to her, and they're shouting at the guy. Now, he's saying some things that obviously, was meant to unnerve them, to get under their skin. But part of being a politician means you have to be tough-skinned. I'll give even the head of the minority whip, actually, I believe his name is. I don't recall his name. He's the leader of the Democratic Party in Congress. Hakeem Jeffries, I think his name is. For what it's worth, he sat there. He looked uncomfortable with a lot of things that Trump was saying, but he did not act out of. He didn't make a scene. He was reserved. He at least took it. He wasn't shouting. From what I see when the camera's panned over, he wasn't shouting. In contrast to him, you have the Al Green guy. Last year he got kicked out, waving his stick and all of that. This year he gets kicked out because he took a sign out about the whole politicians are not apes or whatnot. Although I'm not saying that's not a good cause for him to speak up about, because I did think that was inappropriate. Well, whoever it is that did that on Trump's end, I thought that was inappropriate. But at the same time, you have to understand that the world is watching you, and they want to take on your argument. They want to side with you. They want to see where you're coming from. But the way you're conducting yourself could be very off-putting if you look like you have no decorum. That was the thing for me that I felt like the Democrats could have done better at. Even if you don't agree, I get it. There's plenty of time to make political statements. Do you need to wear a white coat and have a lapel that says fuck ICE in it, and you're a politician? Now, if kids are watching this and they see that lapel on your thing, is that something parents would want their children to see on the lapel of the officials they elected to be a representation of their area? Come on, man. Somebody somewhere in terms of leadership has to say, and this is where I fault Hakeem Jeffries, he has to say, listen, I understand what you guys have some disagreements. You can't wear that because you're representing the party. This is how you may personally feel, and you may want to do that. But as a party, it paints us in a very distasteful light. You know, you wearing something in a professional setting with cameras on, saying fuck ICE, like with profanity and all these different things on it. Come on now. Optically, it just looks crazy. I'm watching this thing as the camera's panning over to these people. They're shouting, they're screaming, they got a lapel that says fuck ICE. And I get it. They're not fans of ICE. A lot of people are not. I think the ICE thing was mishandled in a lot of ways. Trump scaled it back. You know what I mean? And clearly they're taking a position, they're not funding them. But, you know, there's ways you can make the argument without being obnoxious to me. And I just feel like optically it looks crazy. Now, again, there's a group of people that these people represent, but you get elected to Congress to be the representation of an area. And I wouldn't want to be a person who's like, oh God, that's my representative. The lady with the sign that says fuck ICE. What? Now, when you're supposed to be advocating for your area to get money, to earn money for your state, to essentially be a representative of your state, and the people in power are like, we don't want to do anything for that person. They're just disgraceful. We don't like them. There's nothing professional. They're a bit ghetto. Now your people are, in a way, being affected. Maybe they're not getting as much funding as they could have gotten had you been a bit more professional. I just think there's better ways to go about it. And I feel that a lot of times you have these unhinged women kind of going crazy. They're screaming all over the place in the middle of a speech. Look, and that goes on both sides. When Marjorie Taylor Greene screamed at one of the leaders, I think it may have been Joe Biden, during his speech, it was inappropriate then too. It was inappropriate then too, on both sides. I think you can disagree, but when you're screaming in the middle of a speech that's being televised around the world, it makes it look like your house is not in order. As Americans, both Democrat or Republican, when we're abroad, we're just Americans. They don't see like, oh, are you a Republican Democrat? Are you a Republican American or a Democrat American? You're just an American. So, you know, when our soldiers are fighting abroad, they're not like, well, I'm not going to save your life if you voted Democrat. I'm not going to save your life if you voted Republican. They're fighting for all of us as both Democrat and Republican. No matter what it is they serve, they're fighting as Americans. So when we're in the public eye looking like we're so disoriented, it's embarrassing. It's not a good look. I don't know. For me, I'm always like, oh, God, that's, man. To me, I don't know how you can justify voting people like that in. You got to be effective. You got to be professional. You got to actually represent your area with dignity. And when you screaming at the president of the United States in the middle of his speech, and people are hearing your voice in the background, and it looks crazy, I don't think more people are like, yeah, I should vote for Ilhan Omar because she stood up to him. I think they're like, oh, who else is running on the ticket? Like, to me, I'm just now, maybe she's just in a solely Democratic area and everything's good, but I don't know. A lot of the heat that Minnesota is catching right now is because of how these people conduct their business. Let's be honest. Tim Walz was a big critic. He made an enemy out of President Trump. And now Trump really honed in on him, and now he's not running for office anymore. He's going to be out of public life. He's not running for another term. Why? Because now all of a sudden, when they actually put a flashlight on what's going on over there, there's fraud. It looks messy. He could be facing some sort of prosecution as a result of it. If there's more in there, he's trying to now play defense. But maybe it wouldn't have had to get to that point if there was more decorum, if there was more professionalism, if there was some respect for the office of the president. It might not have gotten to that point where now the guy's looking for things to take you out with. And then all the other representatives that falls underneath him with the Ilhan Omar and all these people, you know, their yard is not clean either. They got mess in there. Like, she's the representative for an area representing a population of peoples, the Somalis. And it's outright that they're actually doing fraudulent things. That's a bad look. You should be more conciliatory than defiant. You don't have goodwill with you. Those people were robbing. They were taking advantage of the system, which adds credence to the argument that the people who come here, you know, under these TPS and different type of programs are taking advantage. That's not good. So if anything, it's probably best to say there were some people who took advantage of the system. We are on the side of the American people to get rid of those perpetrators, but it's not a representation of all the community that lives there. The majority of the people is not doing it. Instead, you take a defined position, and optically what it looks like to the American people is, isn't she a Somali? Aren't they the ones that robbed the country for billions of dollars? Why is she yelling at the president when there's all this controversy around her? People who's not really familiar with your politics are going to form a judgment because this is the first impression they have of you. I wouldn't go that route. If I was advising Ilhan Omar, whatever her name is, I would tell her, look, be cool, beautiful lady, smart. I'm sure she had to work very hard to get to where she got. Lead off with a softer tone. Let your grace and your beauty speak for you. I don't know if you guys remember, there was some time ago, Trump did a conference. I think he was trying to negotiate a peace deal between DR Congo or something like that in Congo, some African countries. And there was a black African reporter who it seemed like Trump was smitten by. She spoke so eloquently and she was so graceful and so ladylike that Trump literally stopped and said, ma'am, you're graceful. You are a great representation of you. He stopped everything to compliment how great and how well presented this lady was. It's because she was graceful. She didn't have this like tense energy and she's screaming and doing all this stuff. And it's like, dude, that's not where your superpower lies. Your superpower lies in your ability to use your grace, your feminine energy to diffuse a situation. I just didn't feel like, I don't feel like anyone is advising them accordingly. There's a way to do it. I'll give you another perfect example of this. Who's the lady that's Trump's Tulsi Gabbard. She was on the other side. She was with the Democrats. And when she ran for president, her and Kamala Harris got into it, but she gracefully pretty much ended Kamala Harris's campaign with facts. She was a lady about it, very well spoken. How that in the world did a lady that was on the other side trying to run against Trump, now a part of Trump's cabinet? Ideologically, they were different, but she obviously has enough people skills to win her enemy over. She was on the party that was competing against Donald Trump. And somehow, when it seemed like her party was kind of alienating her, she was able to go and gain an audience with the president. And she convinced him to overlook all the people who were Republicans, had the badge, lifelong Republicans, to give her a chance at leading one of his agencies, one of his departments. That is what a politician, that's a great politician to me. How the heck can you do that? Marco Rubio got a lot of respect for me. I don't know. Your man went from being a Trump hater to literally trying to roast Trump during a debate, to criticizing Trump during his first term. And now he's like Trump's right-hand man. He can convince 100% of a Congress that don't agree on nothing, of senators and stuff that don't agree on nothing, to give him the vote. He got, and the next best up, I think Trump said last night, was 54% from the next highest person who got a vote to actually take their leadership positions. There's something to be, I don't know what Marco Rubio is doing, but when he talks, he makes some compelling points, enough so that people are like, okay, you're not even on our team, but yeah, I kind of see where you're coming from. And he can get buy-in from these people. There's something admirable about that. The ability to be someone's critic, but also the ability to win that person over, despite the fact you criticize certain things that you don't like about them. And I would give it to Marco Rubio when he talks. You're like, oh, the guy's very well spoken. Sounds like he knows what he's talking about. He doesn't ever look frazzled. He's always in control of conversation. He's just sharp. And that's the reason why Trump praises him all the time. I see it. I get it. I can see it for exactly what it is. I see it and I get it. On the flip side, you have an Ilmar Ohan or whatever her name is. Ilmar. I'm sorry. I'm jacking her name up. This is no disrespect to you, Miss. Omar, as a representative, and to me, every time I've ever seen that lady, it seems like it's combative. There's like combative energy. I don't ever see her graceful side. When I see Tulsi Gabbard and she speaks, it's very eloquent. It's very ladylike. I never see her frazzled. But then again, she's effective. Those are the type of people that get results to me. Now, there's other people that's very underhanded. They do things. They got power because they yielded the power in different ways and stuff like that. But there's a way, I think, there's a decorum in terms of how to maneuver and how to do certain things. Those are a few examples that I saw. So for me, my one suggestion that I would have for people on the other side is maybe just take a deep breath. You can make your arguments about why you feel that Trump is doing something the wrong way, but remember, you have people to win over. Not everyone is diehard Democrats. You still need to win over independents. You still need to win over people you lost from the other side who may not be thrilled that Trump is their guy. They may still be in play. But if you can't make a winning argument, if you can't show them that you can actually at least say that you stand with the American people and you're elected to represent their interests first, then you're not going to win them over. If you're the reason why all these people migrated into the country because you let them in, and now you're trying to stop the man from getting the people out that you let in, it looks crazy. If the inflation went up during your rule, if a lot of the wasteful spending came from you and programs you were investing in, if your policies are like out of touch with what people want, I don't believe the majority of the American people want to have their children sex change without their parents being told. I don't believe it. If that's a policy you're trying to push, a lot of people are not going to stand with you. Why would you continue down that road when people, the majority of the people, don't want that? But you push it anyway. I don't. You're pushing agendas that doesn't cater to the majority of the people, and you're trying to force it down everybody's throat, and they don't want it. So why would you do it? That's the whole point of, like, in a way, it seems like they became a little tone deaf to what the people are actually saying. They're saying, we don't want war. We don't want to go fight for Ukraine. We don't want it. Ukraine does not have to join NATO. They don't. It's not imperative that they join NATO. They've been existing without joining NATO for a long time. And Vladimir Putin didn't take them over. The only time he took actions against them is when they wanted to join NATO, because he said he didn't want them at their border. The easy solve is them agreeing to not join NATO, and they can run their country the way they're running their country, provided that they're not opposing this guy who apparently you guys made agreements that NATO would not come to their doorstep. But people aren't signing up to send their kids to go die for something that, like, is completely avoidable. Like, why would any of them want to do that? Like, why? No one wants to do it. So to me, I'm like, why are we pushing for war? We got $30 trillion of debt, and people's prices are high on their food, their gas, and we're constantly finding reasons to send money to another country to fight a war that has nothing to do with us. Why is that a priority when people can't afford their bills? In a way, they became a little tone deaf. And that's why it was so effective when Trump said, if you stand with the American people and not with others, stand to your feet. And they sat down. That said everything anybody needed to know. Can't be tone deaf, man. You can't. People are gonna say, "Oh, okay, there we knew we couldn't trust these folks." Like, look, they don't even stand with us, and it's true, because he's saying it's your fault that the prices are crazy. It's your fault all these illegal people are here. I try to build a wall, you disconnected the wall. I try to be energy independent, you stopped the digging in the pipelines. You know, you opened the doors for countries to take advantage of us and have these trade imbalances. And now when I'm trying to fix it, you're opposing me. I'm uncovering all the wasteful spending and you're trying to justify it. Why are we sending money for, like, same-sex animal things in Nicaragua. I don't like, why are we doing that? Like, that's weird. Why are we doing those type of experiments when people are literally sleeping in the middle of your cities, homeless, suffering on drugs and opioids, and you're completely going on like it's business as usual? You become tone deaf in a way. You're not paying attention to your population. So ultimately, it leaves people with a bad taste. They start feeling like, man, I can't, don't even talk to me about what those people are talking about, because I don't see how they have anything in store for me. What are they going to do that's going to help me? I don't want my kids' body parts cut off without my knowledge of it. I don't want to redefine marriage between a man and a woman to a man and a man. I don't want to do that. I have Christian values. I still would like to practice my religion and not feel like I can't, you know? I don't want a war. I don't want my friends or children of my friends to have to grieve the loss of their loved one. I don't believe that it's the best use of money to spend money on things that are not essential and necessary. We're sending money for frivolous programs that are not good. I don't want that. I don't want to pay higher taxes. Like, I don't want to do that. So I'm paying higher taxes for wasteful spending. I mean, these are like basic things that I think most people are going to associate. Now, look, man, politics is, I don't have my hand on it all the way. You know, I don't have my hand on it all the way. Some things may be extremely obvious to me, but people still vote sometimes along party lines. People vote against their religious beliefs all the time. You know what I mean? Just because, you know, it's what they customarily do. It happens. But I do think there's a trend of a more informed voter, like this new generation. Their ear is to the street. They're not consuming news the same way. They're on Twitter, they're on TikTok, they're talking to each other differently. They're more engaged and more informed. So the mainstream media is not going to tell somebody how to vote. It's not been that effective. And the people they're telling to vote are the ones who's aging out. The young people is not even tuning in to those people that tell them how to vote. So how you're capturing those people, the new voting block that's coming out, needs to be a point of emphasis for the Democratic Party. But I just feel like you got to start listening to your people, man. Now, I've said some positive things about Trump. There are some things, too, I think Trump could do better. Trump is actually a very eloquent guy. When he wants to speak, like if you ever followed old interviews of Donald Trump on Charlie Rose, this guy's very well spoken, very eloquent. He's evolved some in his older years, maybe to appeal more to a broader audience. So he's dumbed down a lot of how he talks. Makes him relatable. A lot of people like that about him, that he just speaks plain Jane. He doesn't overcomplicate. But I think behind closed doors, during negotiation, the guy's very charming. He's been doing business a long time, so he can be a bit of a chameleon in that sense. But I do think, you know, the way he approaches certain things could, you know, he could do things a little better. He could tone the energy down at times. Sometimes he pours gas on it. I can understand why. I mean, I think this is a guy who his whole life came crashing down the moment he decided he wanted to run for president, because he became everybody's enemy. He was messing with the power structure. And I think there's a part of it where, you know, he always feels like his back's against the ropes and he's fighting. It's him and his family fighting everybody. So I think that's why the tone is so aggressive. He doesn't necessarily feel like he can tone things down because he's not really having honest critics. And there's people who's not really seeing things the same way he's seeing things. So in a way, it puts him with his back against the ropes a little bit. But I do think that, you know, Trump has it in him when he wants to be charming and when he wants to appeal to the masses. He certainly can. And so, I just would recommend that he maybe at times goes back to that charming side in those type of settings. I mean, there's ways. Him calling Elizabeth Warren was a great thing. She was surprised, and it was a good thing. So Trump has it in him. When he wants to reach across the aisle and charm them, he can. He just doesn't do it as much as maybe he could. But he's probably thrown in the towel with regards to it because he just feels like they're dishonest and they're not big fans of his and he can't win them over. But there were times, he kind of exposed them. Like, you can't stand up for a lady who lost her daughter. She was in political. The daughter was just sitting on a bus and somebody killed the daughter. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on for that. You don't have to stand up for Trump. But at least stand up to show the lady, listen, you shouldn't have lost your daughter and we're sorry that it happened here. Optically, that would have been a good look for them to stand up for that, but they didn't. And Trump exposed that every time. He was like, you can't stand up for that. Not even that. And people are going to kind of side with him on the argument like, oh, man, this lady lost her daughter, man. That's really sad. And these people don't feel bad that she lost her daughter. I'm not saying the Democrats didn't feel bad that the lady lost her daughter. I'm not saying that. But when they didn't stand up, it appeared that way. At least to me. It was almost like, oh, God. I know you don't like Trump, but this isn't even about him at this moment. This lady lost her daughter. You may disagree with his policy on immigration and things of that nature, but I'm sure you wouldn't outwardly say it was okay that lady's daughter should have died like that. So in that instance, stand up, show a little empathy for the lady who's literally crying on the camera, and you're thinking to yourself, man, like, how would I feel if that happened to one of my kids? And I'd be sad too, and I would want to feel that my representatives was just as sad. And to not, take that moment as a way of showing people that you have a human side to you, I think it was a mistake on their part. Well, I rambled long enough. I've had a lot to say about the situation. It was an extremely long video. I would definitely recommend that you guys, check it out yourself, formulate your own opinions, but also weigh in. The show is called The Intercourse Show, not for the naughty. It's called The Intercourse Show because intercourse means to have conversation. Let's talk about it. I'd love to hear your feedback on what you think about the show, what you think about the subject matter. So weigh in. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe. Stay connected. One thing I'm trying to be more mindful of is I want to make sure that even when I talk and I critique certain videos, I'm not trying to criticize anybody and make anyone feel bad. Even if you don't vote the same way I vote, that's not where my heart is. I just want people to know that. Like, my heart is not where I'm trying to pin one group against the other. And to me, we're all Americans. We want to have a prosperous country because I think everyone wants their families to be good. Everyone wants to have money in their pocket. Everyone wants to live a good life. I think we all share in that. So if I'm giving feedback or criticism of certain things, it may be on political points that I may disagree with, but there's never no personal animus towards anyone because they vote differently than I do. So if anyone hears any of my critique with that type of undertone, I want to make sure I set the record straight on that. I don't have any animus or hate in my heart towards anybody because they vote differently from me. I'm simply saying that to me, there's better ways that we can agree and disagree with each other. That does not have to be so messy and confrontational. That's all I'm saying, but to each his own, chew the meat and spit out the bones, I guess. With that said, I wish you all well. I'll be praying for everyone. Thank you again for tuning in, staying connected, and also letting your voice be heard. All right. Till we speak again, I'm yours truly, Mr. B, signing out. God bless.